Hey guys, it's Friday and that means it's time for another deck. This week I'm going to be playing a creation by Monk1410, another member of No Goblins Allowed. If you haven't been over to the website, get over and check it out. It's a great spot to go talk about magic and decks and stuff. But this is his Infinite Turn deck. It's a 4-color deck, all the colors except for red. You can see the color distribution there. We're playing a lot of green spells, medium amount of white and blue, and just a couple of black ones. So the whole plan is to go infinite with Time Warp and just take endless turns. Make your opponent quit essentially. So it's a convoluted combo deck with a lot of enter the battlefield effects. So let's go up and take a look at the main win condition of the deck. It involves this card, Species Gorger. It's a 5-mana 6/6, so it's a pretty big guy, and he can beat down on certain boards. But at the beginning of your upkeep, you have to return a creature you control to its owner's hand. So you have to bounce back a creature to your own hand. So it kind of slows down your board progression, because it's undercosted for its size, so that's how it's supposed to work. But we're going to play 3 copies of Archaeomancer, and Archaeomancer lets us go into our graveyard and get back an instant or sorcery card. So the Gorger can let us pick up the Archaeomancer and recast it every single turn, and Archaeomancer can go in and find the Time Warp. So we need to have a Time Warp in the graveyard. We need to have a Species Gorger and an Archaeomancer on the battlefield. And we need 9 mana with 4 blue sources to pull this thing off. So, like I said, it's pretty convoluted. But I mean, the deck, it's a really fun deck to try to get there. It's not necessarily the only way the deck wins, though. But it's pretty fun to play. So that's how we get there. So let's start at the bottom of the curve. Let's look at the 2 drops we have in the deck. We were playing the maximum 3 copies of Wall of Omens. It's an 0/4 wall defender, and when it enters the battlefield, you draw a card. This is great with Species Gorger, obviously, because you can just pick this up and recast it and draw an extra card for just 2 mana. So that's obviously good alongside the Gorger. I'm playing 1 copy of Peel from Reality. It's just another interactive spell that plays good with the Archaeomancer. And since the deck has a ton of enter the battlefield effects anyway, it's never really going to be dead. So it slows down your opponent a little bit if they get a really big flyer or a beefed up armored Ascension or something. You can bounce it and pick up your Archaeomancer, say, or even just a Wall of Omens or one of the other ETB creatures. And then, of course, Peel's going to be in your graveyard just sitting there, and if you ever happen to need it again, you can just dig it back up with Archaeomancer. So I think it's a nice toolbox card that lets us interact with our opponent's boards. Obviously, it wasn't in Monk's deck, because he created this before the expansions were released. So that's why that's in there. Let's move along. We're playing all 4 copies of Visionary. This is essentially copies 4 through 7 of Wall of Omens, or Wall of Omens is copies 5 through 7 of Visionary. Either way, that's a bunch of 2 drops that draw a card. So they all combo well with the Species Gorger to let you just draw extra cards. We're playing a combo deck. We want to draw lots and lots and lots of cards. So this furthers that plan. And we're also playing Satyr Wayfinder. This again is 4 more, so that brings us up to 11 2-drops now that replace themselves. The other 7 guys give you a random card off the top. Satyr Wayfinder gives you a land to help fix your mana, and it also dumps 3 cards in the graveyard, because we do have a little bit of graveyard synergy in this deck since we're playing the Archaeomancers. But we're also playing Treasured Finds and Sheoldred and Seance, to take advantage of the graveyard and re-abuse the ETBs. So Satyr Wayfinder is really good here, and that our other 2 mana card is 2 copies of Treasured Find. So Archaeomancer can only get the non-creature spells, so it can get the Archaeomancer can get the Time Warp, but if we dump all the Archaeomancers or Species Gorgers in the graveyard, we need a way to get those out. So Treasured Find is good there. Also, if your Satyr Wayfinder happens to flip up a Treasured Find and put a Treasured Find in the graveyard, then your Archaeomancer can go in and get it back out for you. So there is a lot of graveyard interaction in this deck. So we only have 7 3-mana cards, and here they are right here. Playing Rock's Warmonk in the deck since we're in these colors. It's not a combo piece or anything. It's not some kind of special, card in the deck. What it is that this deck needs a 3-card combo, 9 mana. It's really slow. And this guy, 3/4 lifelinker for 3 mana, really helps you against those aggressive decks that want to end the game early. And so this essentially is how we get to the late game a little bit more consistently, is by having draws where we put this guy out, and the aggro decks just have so much trouble with a 3/4 lifelinker. He is a huge roadblock, So that's why we're playing him here, and we're also playing Cultivate. We're playing 4 different colors of mana, and we have some very extreme requirements, from triple white to double black to, we need eventually quadruple blue to execute the combo. So, the deck has a ton of mana requirements for playing all 4 cultivates. Also, we can cultivate. We can even Archaeomancer out of cultivate just to keep churning along the mana and fixing colors. So that's pretty important in this deck. Actually, it's one of the core cards. Honestly, without mana, this deck doesn't do very well. So let's look at 4 mana. Playing 1 copy of Seance. This lets us. We're playing the Satyr Wayfinder to build a graveyard. Plus, we're going to be chump blocking against aggro decks with our Wayfinders and our Visionaries, and losing the occasional Wall of Omens to a big creature. So this guy, he lets us exile the creatures from the graveyard and trigger their enter the battlefield effect once more. So I mean, Wayfinders will build the graveyard even more with Seance in play, and of course you get to fish out some lands, fix your mana. Visionaries and Wall of Omens just give you an extra card, which is excellent, and a blocker if you do it on your opponent's turn. You get that token, can chump block for the turn. So he's a good card here. Obviously, we showed you the Archaeomancer, 3 copies of that. We could play 4, but it's not like the Cloud Shift deck where you just want to get it out on turn 4. It's something that you kind of want to dry into a bit later in the game. So we're only going to play 3 here. As far as 4 mana goes, I think that's it. Yeah. So let's look at the 5 mana cards. Do we have anything in white? Of course, we're playing white. We're going to play Baneslayer. It's extremely uninspired choice, but again, it's like the Rocksworn Monk. It just it helps you stabilize a lot of games and win some games that you otherwise couldn't. So and since we've got ways to drag her back out of the graveyard, why not jam her in here? Again, it's uninspired. If you don't feel like playing with her, feel free to slot something else in. We talked about Time Warp. Obviously, that's the core of the deck here, as we want to get this. Shadowborn Demon is removal, and since we can reuse ETBs, we can just bounce Shadowborn Demon through the Species Gorger to cast it multiple times. We can Seance it if we have to. We've got Sheoldred in the deck that can bring it back. So it's a lot of value out of this guy. Plus, we are planning on filling up the graveyard. So sometimes we'll just get a 5/6 and a kill spell for 5 mana, and he'll stick around, and he's a really, really big body. The 6 on the back is huge. And also, again, we talked about Species Gorger. You get to bounce up your ETB creatures, and he really, really holds the fort down well on the ground because he's a 6/6. He's really, really big. And then we have our 6+ mana cards. We have 2 copies of Planar Cleansing, just because we need to be able to reset the board against the decks that are faster than us, or any decks playing enchantments and artifacts, because we don't have any outs to those types of permanents if they resolve. Things like Sanguine Bond and Angelic Accord, Sphinx Bone Wand, Obelisk of Alara. This just lets us reset the board and put everything in the graveyard, and it's not so bad since Archaeomancer and Treasured Find can get our stuff back out of there. So we're going to play those cards. I mean, without this card, I don't know. The deck probably couldn't function. And we have a ton of draw spells with the Wall of Omens, Elvish Visionaries. We can dump Planar Cleansing into the graveyard off an early Wayfinder trigger, and then go get it with Archaeomancer. So it's a little bit more consistent to find it here, and it's a really good card. It's one of those cards when you need it. So it's good to have a reset button in a very, very slow late game combo deck like this. And we also have Sheoldred, since we're dumping stuff in the graveyard, and of course she's a win condition against players with swamps in play. She's a 6/6 unblockable. She's removal. Your opponent has to sacrifice creatures, and you get to drag your ETB creatures back out of the graveyard. And unlike Seance, they'll stick around until they're dealt with again. So she's pretty insane. Monk's original list had a Kozilek in here. I swapped him out for her because I think she's just much better at doing what the deck wants to do. But again, his original list was built pre-expansion, so that's why this is in here, and Peel, because I thought they were good inclusions to the deck. And we're gonna play 2 copies of Runescarred Demon. So again, we flipping this guy up off a Wayfinder is pretty good, especially if we get a Seance into play. We can just Seance it and get a free tutor. The reason to play both of these, honestly, I mean, it's a 6/6 flyer, which is fine. You can win either game, but it's a 3-card combo. You need a ton of mana, so sometimes he just helps you find the pieces, or sometimes you're going to go in and dig out the Planar Cleansing to reset the board so that you can drop your Seance and then exile your Runescarred Demon and pick up the cards you really need to finish off the combo. So it's a bit of an interesting deck. I mean, the mana curve looks pretty good down there to me. I haven't played the deck in a very, very long time, and I have not tested it with these edits with the Sheoldred and the Peel. I used to have the Kozilek was in here, and this used to be a Void Snare, but I think Peel is better. Void can hit any permanent that's not a land, but it's sorcery speed. This is instant speed, and still, you can still set up a semi-lock with the Archaeomancer with it, so I think it's better than the Void Snare that I had. Monk had a second Seance. I don't think Seance is one of those cards that you want to play two of, especially not now that we have Shieldred in the pool. You know, Monk's list didn't have access to her. So I think, you know, I don't want to ever have two Seances on the battlefield. And, you know, it's still fairly reliable. You can either draw into it, you can drop it in the graveyard off a Wayfinder and then Treasured Find it, or you can just tutor for it, you know, with Runescarred Demon. So, I mean, you will have access, even though it's a singleton. You will have access to it, you know, fairly often. Anyway, let's take a look at the mana base. It's 4-color deck, so it's a bit tricky. But I'm going to use Monk's mana base. It looks pretty good. I counted the sources, and everything feels good. We got 13 green, 13 white, 9 blue, and 7 black, if my memory serves me correctly. But we've got the Cultivates, and we've got the Archaeomancer, Fetching Cultivate, and we've got the Wayfinders. So the core of the deck, the 2-drops are all green and white, so we're going to play all 4 copies of Selesnya and Gilgate and all 3 copies of Seaside Citadel. So that's 7 green, white tap lands. So any one of these on the first turn followed up with a basic will let us cast those 11 2-drops that we have. You know, Seaside Citadel, you know, gives us blue mana as well, which we're playing in the deck. We're going to run all 3 copies of Arcane Sanctum since we're playing blue, white, and also black. So that's you know, that's another tri-land that doesn't have any red on it. So we're going to play all 3 copies of those, and then we're going to shore up our black sources with a couple of Golgari Gilgates here. And we're using Golgari instead of the others just to get the number of green sources up. So that's we're playing 12 tri-lands and 12 basics. So we're playing, most of our 2-drops are green, so we're going to play 4 forests. We have 3 plains here, which is you know, for the Wall of Omens. But again, we've got the 7 tap lands here, so there's still 13 sources of each color. It's pretty good with the cultivates. The only the hard thing that we need to do is fix for planar cleansing when it comes to white and some of the double black spells. The biggest problem you'll find, and it doesn't happen too often, but sometimes you'll dump basic lands into the graveyard off a Wayfinder, and then you can't search them up with Cultivate. So let's say I don't have an Arcane Sanctum or a Golgari Gilgate. I have a swamp in my hand. I could bin the second swamp, and then I can't cultivate for it. So the only way for me to fix double black is to just naturally draw into a tap black land. So there are some minor issues. Again, we're playing 12 tap lands in a 4-color deck. So I mean, you will occasionally have minor issues with not being able to fit. You know, sometimes you may even have to spend a Treasured Find on a basic land. It's going to be rare, but it is a possibility that that's a line you may have to take. So, you know, like balancing 4 colors, and neither one of the colors is really a splash. Black is probably the lightest, but all the spells are double black, all 4 of them. So, well, Treasured Find is single black. But you know, black is the lightest in terms of number of cards, but you still need double black when you need it. We've got a lot of green. Cultivate is hugely important in here, and again, you will Archaeomancer, fetching a Cultivate fairly often just to strip lands out of your deck and fix your mana. So anyway, that's the deck. You know, I've got my recording device still hooked up to the Xbox One, and hopefully, you know, this deck, the games tend to play out pretty long, so hopefully I can just find one game and record it all week on the Xbox One, so I don't have to go back there and move my TV cabinet and all that sort of shit. Hopefully I'll get a full week on the Xbox One without having to shift back to the 360. Alright guys, that's the deck. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you for some more gameplay in a couple of hours.